guys, welcome back to my kitchen. Tonight we are making soup. I know spring might not be a time when you typically think about making soup, but this is one of my favorite soups for the spring, and it's a great way to make use of all the very beautiful fresh asparagus that is so abundant right now. So we're gonna do an asparagus with Parmesan and lemon soup. It's delicious. What I really like about this particular soup is that it's nice and thick and silky and gorgeous without the addition of heavy cream. It's basically just your vegetables sauteed and then cooked in some broth, and then you use an immersion blender, and your richness comes from your cheese. So yeah, there's still cheese in it, there's still a little bit of fat in it, but it's not nearly as bad as pulling up to a bowl of soup that's made with heavy cream, although that is pretty delicious as well. So what are you going to need? Well, I've got my Instant Pot here. You can do this on the stovetop. You could also do this in a crock pot if you really wanted to, but I'm going to use my Instant Pot, and right now I have it on saute, and I've just started the cycle, so I can feel the pot is starting to get warm inside. It'll let me know when we're ready to start because the display will read hot, okay? So that's heating. What else do we got? Well, obviously, the star of the show, some beautiful spring asparagus. Must be a bumper crop this year. Everyone's talking about how great the asparagus is, and this is from my dad's garden, and it is no exception. It looks beautiful. So this is about 2 pounds, and I've chopped them in about, like 2-inch or thereabout. Some of them got missed here. What you can do if you like, and it's a personal preference, I'm not going to bother, but you can actually chop the tips and reserve those for garnish. I'm not. I'm going to do everything in one pot. So there's 2 pounds or maybe a little bit better even in this bowl. We've got a couple of tablespoons of salted butter. So that's going to be used when we saute our onions and garlic. So I've got 2 cloves of garlic here, finely minced, and I've got a yellow cooking onion. Sweet Vidalia onion would be nice in this as well. I just wouldn't go with a red onion because they are pretty potent, and you actually want the flavor of the asparagus to shine through. So got those. I've got the zest and juice of 1 very large lemon. So I've got about 1/3 of a cup of juice, and then I've got my zest grated here. And don't worry, this isn't gonna knock you off your feet with lemon flavor. It's just gonna sort of freshen it up, brighten it up a little bit. Trust me, it's a really good combination. You're really gonna enjoy it. I've also got some nice rich chicken stock here. There's about 4 cups in this measure, but I've got a couple more in reserve here. We're just gonna see, we're gonna play it by ear, and we're gonna see how it looks. You don't want it too thick, you also don't want it too soupy, too runny, so we'll just sort of play that by ear. And lastly, we have our beautiful grated Parmesan cheese. So I have about 1 cup grated here. Something else I like to do is, when you use Parmesan cheese, quite often you get down to this little sort of ruddy rind on the end of the cheese, and you think, oh, you can't grate any more off. What am I going to do with it? Well, these are excellent to throw in a freezer bag, stick them in your freezer, or you can even cut them in smaller pieces and then put them in your freezer. And when you are making soups or stews even, or just something that you want to impart a little extra richness to, toss that rind right in your pot. It gives a really nice depth of flavor to whatever you're cooking, and it's a great way to use up a pretty expensive wedge of cheese. So I just heard my pot beep, so we can get started. Okay. All right, so we're nice and warm. We're going to put our butter in, and you can hear that sizzling. Melt that down. And to our pot, we are going to start with our onions and our garlic. So we're just going to stir those around for 2 or 3 minutes until they start to soften and take on a bit of a translucence. We're not trying to brown these at this point or anything, so you don't want them, you want to keep them moving. You don't want them to stick on the bottom here. So we're just going to move those around for a few more minutes, and then we're going to add our asparagus. Okay, It's been about 3 minutes. Our onions are looking good. They're starting to soften and they're taking on that translucent quality. So to our pot now, we are going to add our asparagus. And just like we did with the onions, we're going to kind of saute this for about 5 minutes over our, still on our saute function, nice and hot. Going to toss it to coat it in all that beautiful butter. Now again, we're not trying to color this to turn it brown or anything like that. We're just starting to sort of gradually begin the cooking process. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes. You can see everything's looking good. Nothing is really coloring. It's just starting to begin the cooking process, and that's exactly what we want. Okay, so we are now at the part where we start turning this into soup. So I am going to hit cancel on my display, okay, to stop the saute feature. And instead, we are going to want to move toward pressure cooking now. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to add my 4 cups of chicken stock right into my pot. Just kind of scrape down the sides, get all the goodness off. Okay, then we are going to lock our lid on. And we're going to pressure cook this for 5 minutes at high pressure. After that 5 minutes, we are going to let it naturally depressurize for 10 minutes before we finally vent the steam. That's going to ensure that when you try and blend this with your hand blender or your food processor, whatever it is that you're using, that it's going to be, you're not going to get stringy bits, it's going to be nice and smooth. You also note that we are not adding our lemon juice, our lemon zest, or our cheese at this point because you don't want that lemon zest to turn bitter and kind of impart a yucky aftertaste. It's something that you add at the end. Trust me, you'll get that burst of flavor, and we're still going to stir and saute a little bit after we're done with this. So let's get our lid on our pot. Hear it sing its little song. And we're going to go to pressure cook. We're going to drop it down to 5 minutes. And again, with my unit, now we have to hit start. So it's going to beep at us a few times, and then it's going to take probably 10 minutes or whatever to come up to pressure. And once it's at pressure, it will start counting down from 5. And once it's done its cycle, it's going to start counting up as it depressurizes. So it'll say L001. So I always say the L is for leave it alone and let it do its thing. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to wait now until this comes to pressure, and we'll be back to see how we're looking when this is done. Okay. That little pin is about to pop. There we go. Which means that any second now, our display is going to start counting our cooking time. So it'll start at 5 minutes, and then it's going to count downward. All right, we're down to our last minute of cooking time. So when the pot finishes its pressure cooking cycle, right there, it's beeping at us, letting us know that it's done. And then you're going to see the L for leave it alone and let it do its thing. And we are now going to let this count up until the screen says L010, so 10 minutes of natural pressure release. Okay, our pin has dropped on our pot. So take the lid off. Just be careful because there's still steam in there. Oh, does that ever smell delicious? I'll let you have a look at what it looks like inside at this point. So as you can see, everything is beautifully cooked. The broth has soaked up all that delicious flavor. And now we're going to hit it with our immersion blender, and then we're going to adjust the level of liquid, bring it up to temperature, and finish off with our cheese and our lemon. So an immersion blender is obviously a really handy thing to have when you're making this kind of soups. But you can do this with a blender or a food processor. You're just going to have to let it cool a little bit before you do. So I'm just going to continue to work away at this until the texture is completely silky smooth. Okay, so we have pureed our soup. It is a beautiful, silky smooth consistency. We're just going to do a quick little taste on it here and see what we're tasting like. It's very, very good. You can taste the fresh asparagus. The onions have completely mellowed out. The garlic has mellowed out. You can still taste the butteriness to it. It's really, really delicious, but we are not done yet. So, at this point, we are going to add in our Parmesan cheese that we have grated up. Make sure you get all the goodness there. And we're going to add our lemon zest, which is doing a very good job of sticking to the plate. I think I've probably got more on the plate than I do in the bowl. Give that a stir to incorporate that cheese and melt it. Now it's thick, but it's not stiff, the soup. So at this point, I don't foresee having to add any additional broth to it. I think it's going to be a nice consistency. Yeah, I'm going to add a bit of our lemon juice. And you can smell it as soon as it hits the pot. It smells delicious. Try it again and see here now with the cheese. It's very good. We do need a little bit more lemon juice though. And for good measure, I am also going to throw that rind in there. And we are going to turn this back onto saute, and we're going to get it up to a nice boil, and we're just going to sort of let those flavors all blend together beautifully before we serve it. So we're going to cancel out of our keep warm, and we are going to go saute and start. And we'll meet you back when we are bubbling and brewing. Okay, we are bubbling away wonderfully now. So I'm actually just going to turn the pot off and let it cool naturally in the pot. You can see our cheese rind is in here, giving away its magical deliciousness into our soup. Not a requirement for the recipe, certainly, but it certainly doesn't hurt either. So this is actually going to be for lunch tomorrow. You can see it's going to thicken up a little bit more overnight, and we're just going to evaporate some of the liquid out of it here. But we will let you know tomorrow how the final product tastes. Okay, so our asparagus soup has thickened beautifully overnight. Now, it is actually Thursday morning. It's not lunchtime yet. So I am just having a tiny little taste here because I'm saving it for lunch. But it smells beautiful. The color is nice, and it's thickened up very, very nicely. So let's see how we taste. Oh, that is so good. You really can taste the asparagus. You get a nice little hit of lemon. Even, you know, the cheese, it's a very subtle, but everything works really, really well together. This is going to be a really nice lunch. You can top it with some fresh croutons if you like, or just eat it straight up, or a little bit more Parmesan cheese, whatever floats your boat. But this is a great way to use up all of that asparagus that is so plentiful at this time of year. So let me know if you try it, or if you add anything to make it your own and make it different. And I guess we'll see you back in the kitchen again sometime soon. Take care. Bye.